Yeah.
So the transition from you decide to be a farmer, your wife signs on, more or less, whatever that looked like. We don't need to dig into that. She's cool with it now, at least. And then you decide to branch out and add the veterans and the nonprofit side of it.
Yes.
And then after that, it's the distribution side, right? Like we've got these people involved that we're
Yep.
helping in terms of the work and the skills, et cetera. And then we need to find a place for it. So what was the transition from we're farmers to now we're farmers helping veterans?
That was actually an easier transition than I thought. More for the fact that I didn't think we were going to take off this fast. And like Thursday night, tonight's our harvest party. So I've got a group of about 6 folks down there that all showed up tonight around 4:30 or so, and we harvest for a couple of hours, and I put on a spread of food. And that's building the community. It doesn't matter what culture you're part of. Community is always built around food. So that's why it's very important. We always have food. Every Thursday we put on food. Tonight we're having smoked chicken topped with some salsa, along with some shredded turkey with Swiss cheese and fresh shiitake mushrooms that we sauteed up. So, I mean, and a fresh cucumber salad. So, I mean, we eat stuff right out of the garden that we've grown here. Awesome. But we transition this more because the biggest thing is that sense of service and be able to teach others on how to get into agriculture. We got 2 veterans that started up their own agriculture endeavors this year, one doing vegetables, one doing hay. And because we're a nonprofit, we take in donations. And one thing about our organization that's a little different than any other organization is you get 2 bangs for your dollar. So every dollar that you donate, we can take that dollar and we can do the farming that we need to do. We can teach the veterans that we need to teach, and we can put on other classes. But we're also producing at the same time while teaching those classes. So we can also take that dollar and get it into the local food pantries or plants in the springtime to different organizations like Vets and Friends and some of the veterans' homes around the areas. So for every dollar donated, we actually donate back into the community as well. We're a little bit ahead of the donations for going out. We need the community to donate a smidge more. But our first 2 years of operation, in 2 years, we actually have donated over $47,000 in plants and produce into the community. And this year we should be pushing up towards that $60,000 mark in total in our first 3 years of operation. So it's making the impact that we're needing. The biggest struggle that we have right now isn't finding the help. It isn't finding the volunteers. It's actually the cost to produce has gotten to the point where it is literally rattling small-time farmers across the board. So,
well, let's explore that. Let's explore that a little bit. You and I both have you a lot more than me because of what you do, but a passion for talking about not only the food supply, but who controls it, who controls farming, and then therefore who controls the farm bill and the incentives that are built in that you have to deal with as a small farmer relative to corporate and bigger farms. So where are you at with all that?
Right now, the biggest thing that we saw was the cost to produce, and there's tons and tons of grants available, but the amount of time it takes to file for it and the competition that is for it, most small scale farmers just don't apply because it's simply not worth the time. So that is a huge thing that is available. And some of the stuff that is available for the small time farmers aren't available for nonprofits. So I thought there would be more, and there's not as on the agricultural side of things. But one of the biggest things that we see is the consolidation of these resources. So like I just out of the co-op that we're a part of, we lost 6 farms. We go to the Green Bay Farmers Market. They've lost 8 farms this season. So small time farmers are just dropping
all small ones, right? All small ones, all family farms or small farms that are being lost, not big corporate farms. Those are the ones who are buying up the land, right?
I think so. You sounded a little bit like a robot. I think my internet was fuzzy.
So can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay. So the farms that are lost are small farms, family farms that are being eventually, maybe not directly, but eventually taken over and incorporated into larger farms and corporate farms.
Yeah. So what ends up happening when a small farmer goes out of business or gets ready to sell his cows, they all go up for auction, and more often than not, the only one with the resources available to purchase them is a big mega farm. So if we look at the overall herd size in the state of Wisconsin, it continues to grow. Overall head count for cows through the whole state of Wisconsin continues to get bigger and bigger. I was just at the feed mill 2 days ago picking up chicken feed for our broiler chickens because we run meat birds too. But They actually put, this is a second generation feed mill, and it's up for sale. And it's up for sale because we just lost 10 dairy farms that used to purchase from that feed mill. And he goes, we don't have enough customers anymore to even stay afloat. So it's kind of spirals, not just when we lose the farms, but that's just 10 farms just out of a tiny little town called Brussels, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, we're not on a good path, and a lot of this happens obviously due to regulation. One of the big things that they're talking about environmental wise is the liquid manure that gets spread all over these fields. That's a big thing that people complain about all the time, all over the place up here. I hear it regularly. We got the pump trucks on the side of the road. It stinks. How can this liquid manure be good? And they're actually negative and digging on the farmers. And this is one of the things that we do with the Farm Bureau Board is we actually show up at these environmental meetings and we're like, hold on, okay, you need to tone it down. Okay, first of all, not one farmer asked to ever pump liquid manure. It's a complete and utter pain in the ass. Mm-hmm. They used to go out and spread solid manure. That's how things used to be. That's what they used to do. That's what was effective for generations. It doesn't run through the soil and down into the watering system because we've got a bad nitrate problem here in the drinking water. And that liquid manure is floating down in there. And now here we are a decade past the regulations that force farmers to using manure and to using liquid manure or spreading liquid manure. And now they're transitioning back to going back to the paddies again and spreading out solid manure.
Well, so, there's environmental issues with liquid manure too, in terms of runoff, and the size of the equipment impacts the soil to the point where the manure runs off more than it soaks in. And then you've got runoff of, and not only that, but depending on where you are, the manure contains all kinds of things that were pumped into the cow that pooped it, right? So there's just a cycling of things that end up with, poisoned water downstream, which is bad for farmers too. That's a bad look for farmers farming too. Because it doesn't need to be that way. That's more corporate farming practices, right?
And that's what we need to do. And we can change. And here's the thing. There's hope. Okay, so we can change the cycle on all this. And this sentiment goes towards just about everything that we can apply to. We have to start working outside of the systems that they've created. So if you want to change the agricultural industry, awesome. So do I. The best way to do that is to start buying all your food from a local farmer. Mm-hmm. Period. Okay. If you want to protect yourself from the next shutdown or the next pandemic, start buying your food from a local farmer so that he can get the equipment needed to grow at a scale to service the entire community. Okay. We can change quite literally the entire country if we all start buying and knowing where our food is coming from and buying from local farmers, learning how to cook again instead of cooking shit out of a box, instead of going to restaurants, cooking nutrient dense, healthy food. Okay, but it all starts with the farmer. That's the biggest thing. We can starve the medical institutions. We can starve the pharmaceutical institutions. We can starve the insurance companies from being the middleman. But it all starts with us making the personal decisions to start buying all of our food or as much of our food as we can from our own local farmers, which is why we got that online store set up on our website. It works a lot like Costco and Sam's Wholesale Club. You pay like a $10 a month membership fee, but that gets you actually access to our online store. And we got a pickup point down in Green Bay, and you can pick up at the farm stand. And you're going to have everything available in there. You're going to have chicken will be available, pork will be available, beef. I've got at least one lamb that's going to be put into there, eggs, produce, all the herbs and spices that you can imagine will be in there. And that's easier for the local farmer to actually be able to control his growing as well. Mm-hmm. I would much rather grow $100 worth of food for 20 families each week than continue to chase farmers and chase restaurants and do all this other jazz. It's very exhausting. So that's kind of our hope to try to save this endeavor here. But we need everybody to be buying from their own local farmers and understanding the level of cost that goes into those farmers too.
Well, and let's keep in mind that not only by doing that are we supporting the farms, but we're also supporting the farm families as well.